stress, and then like any good physio, I'm going to throw a bunch of exercises at you at the end, but they won't be vigorous. I'm just going to do the caveat that I am parenting solo 2 young children right now. So the irony of doing an in-service about stress management is not awesome. And I started twitching on the drive here right now, or here this morning. So we have time to eat. I'm going to talk a little bit about our nervous systems, stress, a little bit about pain and how that's involved with our nervous system. And then I'm going to talk a bit about some habits and some little hacks, some little small things, attainable things that we can do to help our nervous systems. And then we'll finish with some movement. Okay, so the nervous system, it's our command center. So it's made up of our brain, our spinal cord, and a network of nerves. There's kind of 2 main divisions that we're referencing. So the somatic nervous system, which gives us a lot of sensory information and kind of helps us with our motor control and movement. It's a bit more voluntary, the things that we're aware of that we can control. And then our autonomic nervous system, which is more of the automatic functions. So our breathing, our heart rate, our digestion, the things that we don't really, have control over necessarily. We're gonna be in that realm today. So our autonomic nervous system controls our breathing rate, our heart rate, our blood pressure, digestion, our hormones, our bodily fluids, so like saliva, tears, our pupillary response, so how our eyes are focusing, our body temperature, and our metabolism, just to name a few. 2 sides of this system. So we have our fight or flight, or sympathetic nervous system. It's also, can be known as fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, but I'll just be saying fight or flight for short today. So this is what would happen if you were out in the woods and you walked into a grizzly bear. So this system would kick in to help to improve the odds of our survival. So our heart rate would go up, our respiratory rate would go up, our blood pressure would go up, our digestion would slow down, because that doesn't matter when you're facing a grizzly bear. Our pupils would dilate, because that helps us with seeing in the distance to see if there's any more dangers. It would limit our tear production and saliva production, and then releasing hormones that help us with like acute inflammation and blocking pain messengers, so that if you are injured, you may not notice that you're injured right away, or it might not feel as painful in that stressful moment, so that you can continue to fight or run or whatever. So really, really important system to help us with survival. The other side of this system is our parasympathetic system, and this is often referred to as our rest and digest. So this is the calm side of our nervous system. When we're kind of activating this system, our heart rate slows, our breathing rate slows down, our blood pressure goes down, our digestion improves. So that promotes insulin production and release. It can relax the muscles that control our bowel movements or urination. Our pupils constrict so that we can see things up close. And we have more tear and saliva production. And it also releases hormones that stimulate our immune system. So lots of, good things happening here as well. The thing that happens though is, do most of us feel like this most of the time?
It's adorable.
Or when you open our email and see, 30 unread messages, do we feel like, okay, am I under threat right now? So for many of us, we are more often in that state of fight or flight, or we have a harder time really moving back into that rest and digest. And, there's lots of things going on in our smaller worlds and in the macro world that can influence this. Every time we see the news, every time your kid screams at you for a snack, anytime, lots of things can really kind of keep us in that fight or flight system. And so this imbalance can affect our sleep, our digestion, our hormones. It can affect our pain. It plays a really big role in chronic pain. And it can also influence chronic conditions like diabetes, arthritis, heart disease, lots of others. And when we are a bit ramped up into that fight or flight, we can take smaller stressful stimulus to really set it off, right? So we know that if we've had a really bad sleep, if your back is sore or something, like, someone can look at you wrong and you're just like, no way, not today, right? So we get ramped up, and it's little things just kind of keep ramping us up. Some of us can also be maybe predisposed to having more of a hypervigilant state or a hyperactive fight or flight response if we've experienced trauma, if we've had PTSD. So that can, that's our body's reaction to looking for danger and trying to keep us safe. But if we stay in that system all the time, it's hard on us, physically and mentally. So, I like this image. Regulated nervous system is not always calm, nor is it full of highs and lows, but it's being able to ride the waves of stress and return to balance with ease. So there are a lot of things that we cannot control in our world. There's a lot of stressful things that we can't control. But what I'm hoping we can get into a little bit today is, some things, looking at the things we can control to manage our reactions to stress and help bring us back into that kind of more restful state. Just a little bit of a plug on pain in the nervous system. So I kind of started to learn about all this through chronic pain education. And the nervous system is hugely involved with chronic pain. And so what we understand about the brain and pain in the body is that pain is an alarm, but it's not a very accurate alarm. It's like a really crappy car alarm that go off if someone's breaking into it, but it might go off with a gust of wind. So it's not necessarily indicative of the level of danger, right? It's just bringing that to our brain's attention. So the brain receives a danger message and produces pain as an alarm so that we act on it. So if we're touching a hot stove, it's like, okay, move your hand because we need to act to get ourselves out of danger. If we're in our sympathetic nervous system or our fight or flight system and living with that kind of chronic stress, this system is turned up. So it takes less painful stimuli to create a bigger pain response. And we can see this even when, even if there's been a specific injury, we might see on an MRI or on an X-ray or ultrasound, that injury, those tissues have healed, but they can remain very sensitive. And the map in our brain of that area is still very sensitive too. When we're working with chronic pain, we have to look at the whole person, right? We have to look at, where's the injury at? Do we need any more medical management or treatment? But also, what are the stress factors? What is our lifestyle like? What are all the things we need to do to kind of turn down that system a little bit so it can be a bit more responsive in a helpful way? So chronic pain is hugely impacted by our stress state. So how do we take care of our nervous system? I hate to say it, it's all the boring things that we all know we should be doing. So sleep is critical for our health. Most of us can feel that when we've had a poor sleep. Nutrition is also so important. And not even necessarily what you're eating is important, but also are you eating? When are you eating? We've all felt hangry, and we've all been in a position where we're like, why am I so ticked off right now? This isn't a big deal. And then it's like, oh, I haven't eaten all day, right? So at the very basics, just eat on time, on a schedule, and that's going to help your nervous system also. Movement is helpful. We're going to talk a little bit more about exercise, but any movement, walking, changing positions, preferably movement that you love, right? That makes you happy. I'm never a fan of getting people to just grind away in the gym, but doing something that feels meaningful and maybe even brings you some joy. Managing emotional stress is a big one that, is hard, right? There's a lot of things outside of our control. There may be things in our past that we obviously, can't change. But looking at ways to have support. So whether that's through counseling, whether that, maybe that's through setting boundaries at work and at home. So knowing what you're actually available to do for others and being able to, to show up for yourself in that way. Mindfulness practices, which we'll talk a little bit about, spiritual practices, if people have, specific practices that are meaningful and important to them. Engaging with all of those things, can help to at least manage our emotional stress. There's, getting rid of stress is not really the goal. It's not really possible. Managing physical stress is also really important. When we're in pain, when we're having digestive issues, when we're not feeling well, that can have really ramp us up as well. So making sure that we have good medical support and medical management, making sure that we're treating injuries, treating pain, taking care of those things as much as we can. Managing overstimulation. Any parents in the room will know this is like a lot. But we all have a threshold for stimulation, so maybe just reflecting on what that looks like for you and how we need to adjust our environment for noise, screens, how much screen time are we having, how many different screens, light, clutter around us, how much we're trying to multitask. All of that is, puts us into that more hyperactive sympathetic system. I see lots of folks working in their offices with the fluorescent lights off, right? And that can be one simple way to kind of manage that stimulation. Some things that we don't often talk about, I think, in kind of, when we're in the medical world, talking about well-being, is connection with community. Feeling like you're part of something, whether that's your smaller community of your family, whether that's a sports community, a church community, whatever that is, feeling like you're part of something is a huge part of our wellness. And doing things that bring you joy. If that's hobbies or activities, being creative and creating things is really, really important for our health, whether you create something that is pretty or not. But, having those things that are just for you are also really beneficial for our well-being. So now we're going to get into some hacks. So these are some things that might be a little bit easier to engage with on a day-to-day basis. But I would, this is a big list that might feel a little bit overwhelming, but I think there's some value to kind of reflecting on these areas of your life, and even just seeing if there's some little changes that, might be possible or might be helpful for you. Whether that's just turning the lights off in your office sometimes when you're working, or noise canceling headphones, or, booking that appointment with physio to take care of your back pain because you're grumpy by the end of the day because of it. So, trying to maybe pick a few areas that you can maybe try to optimize things a little bit. But the expectation is not that we can just overhaul our whole lifestyles. Okay, so these are some little, hopefully attainable things that we can consider when we're feeling stressed, when we're feeling angry. None of these things are going to just solve all of your stress, but the goal is that you can recover from it, right? So if we're feeling like a 10 out of 10, maybe picking one or two of these things to bring us down to an 8. And practicing that so that our body gets kind of more adept and more skilled at recovering after those stressful times. Okay, so a lot of these things, this is just a plug for the vagus nerve. A lot of these things we're going to talk about activate the vagus nerve, which is one of the main drivers of our parasympathetic system, so that rest and digest system. So it serves as one superhighway carrying information between the brain and our internal organs and controlling the body's response in times of rest and relaxation. So it innervates, is connected to the heart, our respiratory system, our stomach and GI tract, the gallbladder, our pancreas, to name a few. And it also modulates inflammation, especially in the gut. There's kind of, sometimes we say that there's like another brain in the gut, right? That sometimes if people have a lot of digestive issues, that can also create a lot of sensitivity for our nervous system because the vagus nerve does travel through there. So diaphragmatic breathing is referencing kind of using our diaphragm, which is our main breathing muscle, to kind of its full extent. This is not how everyone needs to breathe all the time. We have lots of ways of breathing that we need at different times. So you would not do this if you are going for a jog because it's just not efficient. But it's a really nice way to just kind of come into that more peaceful state. So our diaphragm muscle kind of is below our lungs, and it kind of goes transversely this way. And basically, as our lungs fill with air, it presses down, and then as our lungs empty with air, so kind of like a balloon filling and emptying, it rises up. So doing this kind of breathing, it does like support our respiratory system. So it can help to kind of clear our lungs if there's stuff in there, if we're sick. This muscle is also really important in our core muscle function. So it works with our abdominal muscles, our pelvic floor muscles, some of our back muscles to stabilize our pelvis and our core. And the pressure into the abdomen can help with our bowel and bladder function as well. So it kind of helps to empty things as it's kind of pressing down. And the vagus nerve travels through and innervates part of the diaphragm. So when we move the diaphragm, it stimulates that vagus nerve to bring us into that rest and digest parasympathetic system. So this is just kind of, how this all, the magic of it and how it works and why this kind of breathing is important for many systems. So if folks are willing to, we'll do a little bit of a breathing practice. So you can do this sitting, you can do it sitting down, you can do it, we'll keep you guys sitting for now. And essentially what we want to think about is filling our lungs with air, but feeling like we're expanding through the front of the body, the sides of the ribs, and the back of the body. So if we look at kind of this visual, you can see the ribs kind of open. So sometimes I call it an umbrella breath. So you think about an umbrella opening, and it's opening through the whole circumference of it. So we're not just thinking about belly breathing, we're thinking about expanding through the whole circumference of your rib cage. So we would breathe in through our nose, drawing the air down into our belly, the sides of the ribs, and the back of the ribs. And then we can breathe out through our mouth and just kind of letting it go. So let's practice that about 5 times together. It doesn't need to be the biggest breath that you've ever taken, but just kind of, a nice expansive breath. If you're not quite sure what's happening or if you're doing it right, sometimes I'll even just do a little bit of feedback. So you can have your hands on the front, you can have your hands on the side. So actually sometimes I use a TheraBand with folks, and you can even kind of just gently wrap it around and then feel, as you're breathing in, can you feel the resistance of the band all the way around? Or if people can try this with a scarf at home or anything that you can kind of wrap around yourself. And so as you're doing this, maybe just paying attention to if you notice anything changing in your body or in your mind, right? So just kind of paying attention to sensations, to your thoughts. If you want to say anything out loud, if you've noticed a change, that's great. If you don't want to, that's okay. So, this is one of those things that you can try to practice a couple times during the day. 5 breaths. And just if you're noticing, like, you see that email list or you have a stressful interaction with somebody, that's a nice way that you can maybe recover a little bit from it. The issue is always like doing it, right? So put a post-it note up there or a reminder in your phone, just breathe. Because so many of us, we spend most of our time breathing up into our chest and our shoulders, and that can also contribute to some of the tension that we can feel in our shoulders as well. Exercise snacks. So in a perfect world, we'd all be able to get all the exercise that we want to do. The reality is most of us are driving a lot and sitting a lot. So I would encourage folks to kind of reframe a little bit. When we can exercise and what's worthwhile. I think we look at our schedule. I don't have 30 minutes. I don't have 60 minutes. I can't make it to the gym, so I'm just not going to do anything. But considering doing some micro breaks at work or at home to just get some movement in, right? You might not be able to lift the heavy weights that you would prefer to, but we can get really good blood flow. It's really good mobility for our joints. Lots and lots of benefits. So, even standing up at your desk and doing 10 squats, or doing some heel raises and kind of just getting things moving, some lunges. You can use water bottles, or you can take the resistance band back to your office with you, and you can use that to kind of take some little breaks. At home, you can do a couple of extra trips up and down the stairs. You could be doing some heel raises when you're preparing supper or doing dishes, or doing a few exercises when you're watching TV. Humming. So this is a really interesting one. So humming and singing creates vibrations that stimulate the vagus nerve. You're nodding. You're like, you get it. Yes.
That was my technique for my basic pain.
Yes, beautiful. Yeah.
That's what I did. I hummed the vibration, calmed me.
Yeah.
Took me away from my pain.
Oh, that's beautiful.
I did that too.
Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, so the vagus nerve travels through the neck and the throat. So we are stimulating it when we're doing that. So that can slow our heart rate and create a positive effect. So, your office mate might resent you and just humming all day long, but, even just giving that a try, sing the whole way home from work in the car and see if that kind of helps to calm you down. Stretching. This is the next in service. We're getting into this pose, which is not totally a stretch, but it was just pretty funny.
It's not that hard.
Not that hard. All right, we'll do the demo with you next.
That's there.
So stretching can help us with just kind of lifestyle-related stiffness and soreness. But it also helps us to shift into that more relaxation state. So that it helps to release kind of calming hormones and, can help to improve digestion and things like that. My caveat with stretching, and what I see a lot with a lot of the folks that I treat for pain is, we might kind of find a stretching routine where they're like, if I do this routine, my back doesn't hurt, but I always have to do it. So often if all we're doing is stretching, and we're not changing kind of the function of our muscles, because often muscles that are tight can also be weak. So if all we're doing is stretching always, they don't stay in that kind of nice, more spacious, expansive feeling. So we also have to strengthen as well. But stretching can feel lovely, really, really great when we're in the same positions all the time, driving or sitting at our desks. And we'll go through some ones that you can do at your desk. Nature. So this is there's a lot of really cool research being done around the effects on our brain and body with nature. So being in nature activates that rest and digest, the parasympathetic system. And one of the mechanisms of doing that is that it kind of puts us into a different state of kind of focus. So often when we're working and we're doing things, we're really focused on the task at hand. And when we can be in nature, they call it a state of soft fascination. So we can kind of observe the world around us, and that helps with our mental relaxation and that mental fatigue that we have kind of with daily living. And the neat thing about the research is that they say that indoor plants and even images of nature can have this effect as well. There's like something about all the shades of green that are, are really, really calming too. There's some other research looking at kind of resiliency and trauma, and they're saying that folks that kind of experience the feeling of awe, like being in awe of something, are able to recover a bit better from stress. So, if you look out and you see the mountains, and you can kind of take that moment to be like, wow, like those are huge. I'm small. Like what an incredible landscape. If we can kind of cultivate those moments where we feel that feeling of awe, that has a really big effect on our resiliency, rather than just being like, oh, that's nice, like getting into your car to go home. Cold water. So cold plunges are pretty on trend these days. But cold water does stimulate the vagus nerve, so it brings us into that relaxation mode. You do not have to do a polar air plunge to get the effects of that. Even drinking cold water can have that effect, or splashing cold water on our face or on our hands. So if we have a pretty stressful, if we're in a state of stress, even just running our hands and our wrists under cold water can kind of help to calm things down. If you see me walking across the whole health center to this room to fill up my water bottle, it's because it's a little bit colder. And I know toddlers too. We hold them in a cold shower. Oh yeah, I'll try it.
Won't your baby just take a glass of cold water? Drip it on their head.
I don't even want to know about their nervous systems. Mindfulness meditation. So there's been a huge amount of research done on mindfulness, and it's quite a buzzword, and it's quite popular. And it's very helpful and meaningful. Sometimes it can be kind of overwhelming for people to figure out how to engage with it.
It takes practice.
It takes practice. The cool thing is that the research shows that even if you feel like you suck at meditation, you still can get the benefits. So
Even if you're still sitting there quietly, it's beneficial.
Exactly. Yeah. So even if the whole time you're like, oh no, I thought a thought. Oh no, okay, and at the end you're like, oh, I'm so terrible at this. There's still a lot of value to it. It still has that effect on.
Can I share a tip? Sorry, I know. There's a tip that a meditation, he said, when you're trying to clear your mind, ask yourself the question, what's the last thought that I want to think in my life? And then, if there's such a rush of all the thoughts, none come into your mind.
That's cool.
That's what got me into being able to do it.
That's really cool.
It was cool, but it took practice.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's absolutely a practice, and you'll have better days and worse days at it. And for some folks that have busier bodies, it can feel like agony to kind of sit still. So sometimes people, that's kind of the point of yoga, is to move your body and then meditate, kind of traditionally. But you can also do a moving meditation. So Tai Chi is a very mindful kind of movement practice. We do that at Elders Group, which is really lovely. And you can do yoga as well. So basically the goal is to develop an awareness of what you're sensing and feeling in the moment, without any interpretation or judgment. And it's hard. It takes practice, but it's very beneficial. So, on that note,
Is yoga a religion?
No.
so it's a practice from India, and there is like Hindi would be the religion, or like one of the religions, but then yoga is kind of a separate practice. Yeah, so it's more, as far as I know. Yeah.
Is it more of an exercise than a ritual, or is it more of a ritual / incorporated exercise in it?
It's both, for sure. It depends on the interpretation, right? If you're in India, it would look very different than if you're in Cochrane. Right? But there is, there's different layers to it. So there's breathing practices, there could be chanting practices. Most of what we see kind of in yoga studios around here would be mostly kind of the movement part. And sometimes it can be like that picture of the woman, on her desk.
Yeah.
Those big inversions and things like that. Or it can be extremely gentle, sitting in a chair and doing that. So it just depends on how it's kind of interpreted here.
Yeah, it's like, so if they do it, like the Indians do it, then it would be considered something ritual or cultural for them, whereas someone that's non-Indian, they do it as...
I think we get North American yoga here.
We do.
Chinese food.
It is, there's a huge debate about cultural appropriation with it, for sure, right? Because it's very much it is a cultural practice. And so you have folks in Canada or Cochrane, wherever, in yoga classes chanting like in Hindi, right? And not so like there's a lot to it.
Would it be disrespectful towards the Indians if you're, say, conducting yoga? Like I know for cultural appropriation.
Yeah. Yeah, I wonder if it's kind of around the intent, right? I wonder if that kind of, if maybe, and everyone's going to interpret it differently. But I think often the intent can be part of it. So if you're saying, this is a practice that's from this area of India that was brought to North America at this time, and this is how we're practicing it here, it's hard to say. Everyone's going to have really different feelings about it. It has been commercialized in mass, it's been spread all over. There was specific kind of yoga instructors that came and kind of popularized it in like Hollywood, so it was kind of an interesting development of how it came to North America. And then there's lots of folks that go to India and learn and practice there as well. Yeah, I've wondered about that a lot. I have a bit of a complicated thoughts for the moment.
Like, I haven't heard anybody say, teaching yoga, but if you're not, I haven't heard the Indians complain about it.
One of the instructors I go to is an Indian woman, and she's very
something
sharing. She shares it. They're just fun. Come to a yoga class with me. Just come with me. You'll see.
And I think it's partially seen as a medicine. It's like a way to treat the body and improve the body. So I think there can be a lot of generosity in that, as far as this is Eastern medicine and this is one way that you can work on that. But there probably are people that are like, no, this is we don't like how it's been changed. We don't like, because there's been a lot of it's very different. A lot of it is very different than how it would have originated.
I've always seen it as an exercise class. If you go to the Y or gym, they offer yoga class.
Yeah.
So it depends on how deep you want to dive into the cultural aspect of it, or just see it as something
but exercise.
Yeah.
And there's different types of yoga. There's relaxation yoga, there's restorative, there's an active yoga. I go see a functional yoga instructor. Hot yoga.
It's endless.
It's endless.
There's scream yoga,
Flow yoga, go yoga. That's the white. That's ours.
Yoga is maybe not true.
The general consensus that I've seen is if it's done in good faith, then there's not generally an issue. And the only kind of people that I've seen that have been discussing it being problematic have focused on the teachers, particularly, who are very much appropriating things that they don't understand. And, it's one thing to say namaste at the end of your practice, and another thing to chant in Hindi and not know what any of it means, So those are yeah. And not so much the people taking the class, but the teachers.
Right. And Tai Chi is from China, and there's Qigong is another similar practice where it's and I think you've seen it at Elders Group. Have you seen what we've done?
Yes, I've done.
And so it's like a martial arts, a slow kind of martial arts influenced meditation. And from my impression, that's been really shared. There's so many Tai Chi societies in different communities where everyone's welcome, and it can be extremely welcoming and open. And there's a ton of research on Tai Chi from China, because they have such a huge population that does it, that they have these incredible research studies that show that Tai Chi has huge benefits for cardiac conditions, so it helps with our blood pressure, and then for mobility as well. So really great for falls prevention and balance. So that's been fun for Tai Chi. Yoga gets all the glory, but Tai Chi is also lovely. Okay, so I don't know if this linked or not, because I did not test that, and I had one kind of video, a meditation for us to do together. Okay, so this is a meditation that is a guided meditation. If you want to, you're welcome to close your eyes. If you feel more comfortable with your eyes open, maybe just finding a spot to kind of have a soft gaze ahead of you. If you want to just keep eating and doing whatever you're doing, that's fine too.
I'm going to turn off the lights.
Okay.
Take a moment to get into a comfortable position, whether you're sitting or laying down. You may close your eyes or keep them slightly open. Relax your shoulders and your body. Today, we'll begin a short body scan meditation. We will focus on different parts of our bodies. Checking in with our bodies helps calm our mind and to notice what we're feeling physically and emotionally. By taking a full breath in and long breath out, feel your belly rise and fall with each breath. Now, bringing awareness to the top of your body, your head, face, neck, and shoulders. Noticing different sensations and different feelings. Now moving down to the arms and the hands. Paying attention to the back of the body and to the front of the body. Sensing yourself, whether you're sitting or laying down. Feeling the contact of your body with the chair, floor, or cushion. Now notice your upper legs, your lower legs, and the feet. Noticing if there are any places that call out for attention. Places where sensations stand out the most. Scanning to see if there are places where there is a lack of sensations or very little sensation. Now, sense your whole body breathing. Feel your breath moving through your body. Breathe in and breathe out. You are here. You are safe. You are loved. Breathe in and breathe out. Slowly open your eyes.
So this is a really, really lovely way to kind of just tap into that breast bulk system, and that's 5 minutes. So these are really accessible. I just found this one on YouTube. There's lots of different apps that you can use. Meditation apps. There's lots on YouTube. And it can just have a really lovely effect on us. I'm just gonna talk through my last two slides because this is just a little bit glitchy, but my second last slide is about massage. So, we have some really good benefits through Manulife for going for massages and lots of benefits. So massage releases dopamine and serotonin, which activates that parasympathetic nervous system. It also helps to stimulate our lymphatic system, and that helps with our immunity. Releases muscle tension, increases our blood flow, can help with muscle or joint pain. But if you can't go for a massage, I'm going to show you guys some massage techniques using the balls today. And then my last plug is about posture. I think a lot of us worry about our posture. There's, it's a big, here is my lecture lesson on our posture. And what I like to say is your best posture is your next posture. So variety of movement is really the key piece, so that we're not staying in the same position all the time. Even if you were in that, kind of like military position, sitting up tall, standing up tall all day, you would be sore. So having variety of movement and making sure that you're switching up your positions is the most important thing. All right, any questions before we get into a bit of movement? Or comments? Anything you maybe weren't sure about or disagree with? All right, so I have a bunch of exercises printed out here as a bit of a program for you. We'll go through some or most of them depending on time. And maybe, is it okay if I take this mic off for the exercises? That's right. Okay, we're going to start with a little bit of movement, and then we'll do a little bit of stretching, and we'll finish with a bit of massage. So we're going to start with some heel and toe raises. So if you're ready to stand up, you can stand up and maybe just hold on to the back of your chair.
Sure.
Okay? And then this is, we're going to just lift our heels up, and then come back down. And then if that feels okay, you can lift your toes up as well. So we're practicing a little bit of balance. Let's do 10, 4, 9, 10. Nice. Okay, and then we're gonna do, I wouldn't be a good physio if I didn't make you do squats.
Yes.
So there's a couple, I'm stealing your chair, Liza. Couple of options, okay? So you can, we can do the squat to the chair touch, which I'm gonna come down and touch the chair. You can do a mini squat. If you're not sure about your balance, you can hold on to the back of the chair and come down to wherever it feels good for you. You could also do a sit to stand. So you could be sitting on the chair, leaning forward, pushing up to stand, and then coming back down to sit down, nice and controlled. So please pick whatever feels best for your body, whatever feels safest. We're gonna have our feet kind of between hip and shoulder width apart. So whatever distance feels good in that range. If you wanna have your toes turned out a little bit, like just find what's comfortable for you, because we all have kind of different alignment of our hips. And then we're gonna do 10 together. So whatever variation that you wanna do, we're gonna do 10. So let's go. If you need to take a break or stop, just do whatever feels.
I'm a little upset, Jackie. You can get lower than me.
No, I'm not.
Seems a little unfair.
Competition.
It's always a competition. It's not a competition. It's a little bit. You're winning. For how many of those I do.
We can grab our bands. Different strengths for the bands. Red is going to be a little bit easier than the green.
No,
So you can just pick, maybe trade if you need to. But we're just gonna hold our band out straight in front of us. And then we're gonna pull it apart, kind of squeezing our shoulder blades together. All right. You can adjust the band, make sure you've got enough space. Making sure that we're not kind of scrunching up our neck too much. I really like this one for working on kind of reversing that office posture that we're always in, right? So we're kind of working on strengthening through those back muscles. Does that feel okay for folks? Fred, you're doing a good job of
keeping it
adjusting.
level.
Yeah, let's do 10 more.
Yeah.
He's got dislocating shoulders.
Oh yeah.
Okay, good. So you can you can set that down and just notice how that feels. So, that can be a really nice option during your workday, just to kind of wake up those muscles in the back and work on a little bit of postural strength. The next one I've got on here is a wall push-up, and you can also do a countertop push-up. So wall push-up is going to be the easier level, and then the countertop kind of brings you a little bit lower, so gravity's working a little bit harder against you. So having your arms out in front of you, your hands, and yourself come back down towards the wall. You can come closer to make that a little bit more comfortable, or you can bring your feet back. So feel free to try whatever variation there. And grab a piece of wall.
On the wall.
Good. Nice. Looks good. And we'll just go for 10, or whatever feels most comfortable for you.
So strong. Thank you.
Love you. All right, Joanne won the speed component.
Joanne already did 100 of those today.
So the next, I've got a pec stretch here. I really love doing a stretch in the doorway. I don't think we'll be able to all of us practice that, but essentially, I'm just gonna stand here with a partner. Yeah, you can do it with a partner, totally. So you have your arm, and you can do it against the wall as well, but you basically have your arms on a door frame, and then take a little bit of a step forward and kind of lean forward to get a nice stretch through the front of the chest muscles. You can also do that on a wall as well with your arm back or up here, and then just kind of gently rotating.
On the wall and put my feet against it. I do this one.
Okay. Yeah. Do you feel a stretch through here when you do that? Yeah. So you can do that on the wall, and you can adjust kind of where your hand is. If you have any questions specifically for your body, like feel free to grab me and ask me later. I like the partner one though. It's like some good team building. But yeah, you can also use your door frame in your office.
And then,
So this is and this is really, really helpful again for that driving computer work. Kind of reversing those postures from the day. Nice. So with the stretches, I usually like to hold them for about 30 seconds or longer if you want to. It takes about 10 to 15 seconds for a muscle to start to let go. So we just want to hold it a little bit longer to really kind of get it that chance to release. But have a seat. We're going to go through some sitting exercises. So we're going to do just a little bit of rotation and kind of stretch for the back. A couple of options. So the picture will show kind of reaching down towards your outer ankle with your opposite arm. If that doesn't feel right for your body, you can reach towards your opposite ankle. Okay, so you don't have to bend forward quite as much. You can do it this way as well. Whatever feels good for you. And so this one, I like that kind of active movement just to kind of slowly warm things up. You can get quite stiff with our rotations. I'm going to just go through a couple of these. Some of these people will be familiar with, and some maybe not as familiar. So I'm going to go through a couple of ones that may not be as familiar, just for the sake of time. So this one's called eagle arms. This actually comes from a yoga pose. So you're going to cross one elbow over the other elbow, and if you can, bring your hands or like wherever they want to go. If you want that back to back there, and then kind of pulling your elbows away, and you may feel a good stretch kind of around the shoulder blade area.
this?
Yep.
Is everyone's feeling that?
Sit up straight.
Kind of just pulling those shoulders away.
Do that and then. That's where
Okay,
it
so
is.
this also just kind of can stretch out those muscles that sometimes we feel a lot of knots in. Let's just do the other side.
Just breath and then do just a little bit more.
Okay, the next one I'm going to show you is kind of a neck position, and it is kind of a picky posture position, but it's basically to bring some awareness so that we're not always kind of in this chin poking position, you're like, or this, yeah. So we're kind of, again, this is not how you need to be all day long, but working on kind of stretching out the back of the neck so that we can kind of get that nice alignment. So thinking about the chin, and I like to imagine that I've got there's like a rope on the back of my head and someone's pulling it up and kind of lengthening through the back. So I'm not just like mashing my chin back to make a double chin. I'm kind of gently drawing it down and back. Okay. You can also imagine that you have like a dowel or a rod going through your ears and you're kind of just rotating around that. Does that feel okay for folks? If you have questions about it, let me know. 'Cause it's a bit of it's a bit tricky to get sometimes. We're gonna do some ball massage. If folks have any questions about any of the other exercises on here, just let me know and I'm happy to walk you through them on your own. But just for the sake of time, I want to make sure everyone knows how to use these. So this is a tennis ball with a balloon wrapped around it. If you've seen me for physio, you may have received one. The balloon gives it some traction because we're going to use it up against the wall. If you like a firmer pressure, or if this breaks after you've used it a bit, a lacrosse ball is a really good option. They're just not in the budget to give out because I give these to a lot of clients. There is a handout here kind of all the areas that I often get people to work on. So any muscly areas, kind of the muscles along the spine, those back strap muscles can be really nice to work in. The top of the shoulder, the back of the hips, the glutes. And essentially, you're gonna take a bit of wall, place it between your body and the wall, and lean back into it, just kind of moving around. So if anyone wants to try that, give that a try. If you need some support, let me know.
Put some pressure on it.
Like go across our body.
Oh yeah, the hairs are real. So basically, I just like to stick to the muscly areas. So I try not to roll over the bones. It does not do any harm. It's just kind of tender. So I just kind of stick to those muscly areas. And you just kind of find the tender spots that might feel kind of good.
Really good. You just all the way around and all the sorts.
And then you can just kind of work on that,
around and
as it feels good.
yeah.
It can feel uncomfortable. Yeah, you can just go back and forth. It might feel a bit uncomfortable, but it's often that kind of massage discomfort of like, what's that hurts, but it also feels helpful. This is it's kind of a bit of it's a bit of an art sometimes, but let's try it on your back, like in between the shoulder blades. Well, if you want to take your resistance bands, go for it. If you have any questions about any of the other exercises, let me know, or if you want me to send you, there's a link and you could watch the videos, I'm happy to do that too. Okay, yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Great. And again, this stuff will be put in the video library, so you can go back.